Hey, welcome back, everybody. Got our pregame pulse. Rams taking the field against the Bills here in a few hours. I got Paul Walia to join me. We're going to talk about a few things, mostly, hopefully, about this upcoming Rams win over the Bills, if that's possible. What's going on, Paul? How you doing this morning?
Fantastic, fantastic. Holidays around the corner, so hopefully we'll have some good news in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, it's almost afternoon for you already, actually. Hey, let's talk about a few things first before we get to the Ram game. I mean, it just makes sense to talk real briefly about the college football playoff, which if we if by the time some people hear this or see this, the we'll know what the playoff bracket looks like. I found this on one of the sites projections, and it's probably going to be something like this. And what I think is really cool, you notice three of those four teams that on the far right there for you viewers, those are the teams that get a bye, projected to get a bye, and I think this is a done deal. I think the four teams that'll get a bye: Arizona State, Oregon, Boise State, Georgia. Three of the four, more or less West Coast, so that's kind of cool. Now the problem, everybody's talking about Alabama versus SMU, and all I'm going to say about that, I know you love the SEC, but the problem I have with the SEC and Alabama in this instance, if you go to late November, late October, early November, their schedule was basically a bye at LSU and then Mercer, which to me is just like, if you're going to schedule Mercer and deep into your schedule, come on, man. If I'm a voter, I'm dinging you big time for even doing that. Let's play big boy football when we get to November. How do you feel about that?
So you're reminding me of when they used to do the strength of schedule. Remember that when they used to factor that in as well? So yeah, you're absolutely right. So this is almost like turning into like the hockey playoffs of the olden days, right? Just try to get into the playoffs and then save your best for the end. I mean, I do enjoy having the different teams in the different brackets. So teams that are like SMU that normally wouldn't even have a chance to sort of register on the Richter scale. So I think it's going to be exciting. But I agree with you. I think there are going to be a lot. I think you're going to see this if they stick with this format moving forward, the manipulation of the schedule. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've always said, these SEC teams tend to do that. They schedule weaklings right before a big game or buys, and all's voters needed to do back in the day over the last 20 years is ding these teams for doing that, and the problem goes away. Now, I don't have a problem with scheduling weaklings, in September. And most teams do it. Virtually all of the big universities, the big programs do it. It's basically a preseason game. But to do that in November, I'm sorry, and you can comment in the. Feel free to comment. Tell me why I'm wrong, but that's how I feel about that. So we'll move on from college football and we'll talk about the injury report. Let's see, what do I have here? Uh, The Bills injury report. Nobody's out. Keon Coleman questionable with a wrist. Dalton Kincaid too. That would be a big deal. Those two guys. I suspect they'll play, but those are two really big targets for Josh Allen. Don't know if we have any update on that, but that's what I have. And then the Rams injury report. We know Tyler Higbee's not going to play. Jared for Sean McVerse is going to go. Um, so nothing really new on the injury, nothing that we didn't already know except for the Bills, of course. If those guys can't go, that would be a pretty big deal. The two receiving targets there. Hey, the Rams made some moves on the some roster moves. They they added Charles Woods, who they released Charles Woods to make room for Emmanuel Forbes. Then they brought him back to the practice squad along with defensive tackle Jack Heflin and nose tackle Kevin Strong. And then they brought Charles Woods up to the active roster, activated him from the practice squad So that's an indication Emmanuel Forbes is not going to play, which is no surprise. But what do you know? Do you got any insight on Jack Heflin and Kevin Strong? Looks like the Rams are just beefing up the practice squad with some run stoppers. Is that what they're doing here?
That's what it looks like. Strong, historically has been good against the run, so it's not a bad pickup for depth. But across the board, I mean, this is the healthiest the Rams have been all season, right? So if the Havenstein monster stays healthy, and we know Alaric is nursing that ankle as well, hopefully they're not too serious. But if you look at that injury report, when is the last time we have seen an injury report like that for the Rams going into a game? So that's great news for them. They're getting healthy at the right time. So Alaric Jackson is the one player that I'm watching because I know that ankle scenario is going on 2 weeks now. So I'm curious to see how he holds up today.
Yeah, and so they got Noteboom and Warren McClendon backing them up basically, and with those two guys, you just never know. Um, so the Rams. Let's look at the what the NFC West, what's going on with the NFC West. The afternoon games, all four of these teams are playing. The 49ers hosting the Bears, Seattle at the 49ers. And this is what this is over the next 2 weeks, what we're looking at. The 7-5 Seahawks, they could very easily lose two straight here. Hey, they could win two straight. You never know with the Seahawks. The Cardinals are going to come out of the next 2 weeks with at least one win. I think they'll take care of the Patriots. And then the Rams, man, if the Rams lose to the Bills, it becomes a must win in Santa Clara. And the 49ers could very easily, I shouldn't say easily, but if they take care of business against the Bears, they have an opportunity to get back to 500. Man, NFC West, I don't know if we should be overly impressed with these teams, but it's going to be highly entertaining, don't you think?
Talk about wild, wild west, right? But if you're a member of Ram Nation, you have to be excited because the Rams, after the Bills, all their games are within the division, so they control their own destiny. And that's the way you want it. You want to be able to. So, kudos to schedule makers. They must have known something that we didn't because the way they lined it up is absolutely perfect. So you got the Niners, the Rams going against the Cards and the Hawks. So the bottom line is the Rams have to really, like I've been saying for a couple of weeks, get their headspace right because everything is lining up in their favor. They just have to be able to execute. So one game at a time, Bills, and then the three NFC West games, and they could really turn this thing around, flip it right on Sear. So I'm really optimistic, and I hope I really hope the Rams put their best foot forward for the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, and I did something I very rarely do. I picked against the Rams this week, but as the week progressed, the more I thought about it, the Rams have a shot here. They could really beat the Bills. I'm not predicting that they will, but the Sharps seem to be behind them. The point spread dropped from 4.5 to 3.5. So the big time bettors are more or less behind the Rams, at least to cover. So we could see a really competitive game, and the things that line up for the Rams, the fact that the Bills just clinched the divisional title. And I know they still have a lot to play for, and they're not going to walk in like this game doesn't mean anything to them. They also played in cold weather in the snow, which takes a little bit out of you. Then they got to fly across the country. So there are some and the Rams are playing pretty good football right now. At least they're not putting together a game of great football, but overall, aside from that run defense display against the Eagles over the past month, they have a lot. There's some good things happening for the Rams on offense and on defense. So I think the Rams have a shot, and if they can beat the Bills, they are going to be in a really good position to make a run at a divisional title here.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams, I think the best thing for the Rams right now is simplify. It just seems like every week there's so much going on and they're trying to do too much. This game, we talked about at the round table. I mean, it's just glaring. that third down percentage on offense is going to be crucial, and on defense, it's stopping the run. It's that simple, and that includes Josh Allen. So I think if the Rams can sort of get their, like I always say, get their headspace right, and they can sort of just tune into those two things and work on that, and really come in and put, sort of maximum attention to those two facets of their game, it's going to help exponentially. The other thing is too, I think a lot of the, sort of the criticisms, I'm like sort of confused in the sense of like the way the Rams are approaching certain things, especially the offense. How many teams out there would be sort of clicking their heels together to have Puka, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, and Kyren Williams in their offense? We shouldn't even have to go onto our roundtable and talk about offensive issues. I mean, that's just my opinion. And now you have an offensive line that, you can argue is that somewhat intact for the last couple of weeks. So there, honestly, I'm going to be really annoyed if we have to go back to that roundtable again and talk about offensive issues. There's enough talent on offense, and they said that from the preseason. That was where they were going to sort of hang their hat, was on the offensive side of the ball. It's time to get it done. This is a big, big game to sort of separate. If you look at that NFC West, it's time to start creating separation.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% as far as the offense go. I remember when we, before the season started, our expectation was this offense was going to be rolling, and the defense, a lot of defensive situation on defense is kind of scary. We're not as, scared as we maybe were before the season because we didn't know what we had in guys like Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. But the offense, right now, aside from not having Tyler Higbee, well, we knew we weren't going to have him at the beginning of the year anyways. But other than that, there's no reason this offense can't roll. We got the big boys on the offensive line. They're all there. Bo Limmer instead of Jonah Jackson. Our wide receivers are healthy. And Matthew Stafford's been, for the most part, playing okay. And, we have a potential two-headed monster, Kyren Williams and Blake Corum. There's no reason, granted, some really good defenses are going to give us issues, and the Bills are a good defense, but still, hey, let's get this offense going. Let's put a 25-27 spot up on the Bills. We have a shot here.
Absolutely. We had a little sneak peek last week, right, Mark, about getting Blake and Kyren in the game, and it worked well. And, look at the numbers. Matthew Stafford on play action. Wow. Through the roof, right? His numbers were phenomenal. But still, that glaring stat, that third down percentage, they have to get themselves third manageable, because defenses, it's pretty straightforward what the defenses are doing. They're daring the Rams to go 9-10 plays down the field. They're rolling the dice that the Rams are going to short circuit themselves with a penalty or some bad execution or whatever it may be. So the Rams have to take their deep shots early. I said it last time, because those boxes are getting awfully crowded. And once they loosen up their, the defense, their running game's going to start clicking. Once their running game starts clicking, everything else will fall into place. I think Matthew Stafford, he's the type of quarterback for the stretch run. You're only going to see his, just like that, sort of that ascending trajectory. He's just going to take off and the offense is going to follow.
Yeah, because I don't see the Rams defense as happy as I am with overall the progression of this defense over the season. I don't see them shutting down the Bills. The Bills are gonna get into the 20s probably, if not worse, if not more. But hey, maybe a couple turnovers, a couple big plays by our defense and by our offense, we sneak away with a win, steal a win against the very impressive Buffalo Bills. So that's all we can hope for. I think it's going to be a fun game, though.
Yeah, these are the type of games. Like I said, this is a Windex game. You want to see what you just clarify where your team is in its progression going into the last couple of weeks. This is how you want it, because this is the caliber of team you're going to face in the playoffs. Right. So this is what you want to sort of set yourself against. So you have to welcome the challenge. And on defense, when it comes to the ground, stopping the ground attacks, you got to set the edge, funnel everything to the middle, and you have to be willing to sacrifice your body. Omar Speights has been huge. We saw Boom. I think it's 3 consecutive games. Boom's had 11 or more tackles. How phenomenal is that? So we need the guys up front now, the interior linemen, to really start shutting down those gaps.
Yeah, and I saw that was it Omar Speights was the highest rated defensive player last week on Pro Football Focus.
Yeah,
That's
PFF's tough to figure out
yeah,
sometimes, right?
right. Yeah, crazy. Okay, Paul, thanks a lot for joining me. It's always fun to have some last minute thoughts on the game, and we'll hopefully talk this evening, late this afternoon, about a Rams win, maybe, just maybe. Okay,
Rapid
thanks, Paul.
reactions after the
Yeah,
game, family.
yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Paul.
All right, brother.